Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Shadow Constellations webinar. I'm both glad and excited to see you all here, and I guess that some people will be joining us in the next few minutes, but we start on time. So good morning to those of you who are around Israel and Europe and some other times in other parts of the world. Yeah. So what is the plan for today? First, we'll have a short introduction, then I'll introduce myself, then we'll talk about shadow constellations. We'll have a demonstration, if we like to call it that, and then a personal session that each one of you will be guided through. And then some time for sharing, questions and answers, and we will be finishing this webinar in an hour and a half. Yeah, so some basic ground rules. I see you're all muted. That's great. If you need to talk, however, do unmute yourself and talk. If you have questions, you can write them in the chat. Once in a while, Sonia will let me know there are questions. Sonia, please raise your hand so they all know who you are. Sonia from the Netherlands is my assistant today. Yeah. My one request for you is that you feel comfortable. Comfortable physically in the way that you sit and where you are. Comfortable to ask questions if you have them. Comfortable to have a toilet break if you need it. Comfortable to take what you want and what is right from you from this meeting and what not, live here with the rest of us. When I will give instructions in a structure, please feel comfortable to do them if they feel right, to slightly change them if you feel they should be slightly changed, or just not do them and let me know if this doesn't work for me, if that's the case. Okay, so be comfortable to be good to yourselves. This is like the single ground rule I think is important to have today. And let's begin with an introduction. How about we each write in the comments where are we from and where did we grow up? Just so that we have some sort of who and what influenced us. Moscow, Colorado, in Thailand, India, London, and from the US. Argentina, German, Oxford, UK, London, Moscow, Swindon and Birmingham, more Moscow, Romania and London, and Qatar, cool. India, Turkey, hello neighbors. Okay. So, and France and India, cool. Tatarstan, Russia, a new place for me. So we're here today to learn something about shadow constellations, and before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Nir Esterman. I'm a family constellation and systemic facilitator and teacher, and I also facilitate and teach shadow work and embodiment at large, and more specifically Greenberg method, and which is sort of body psychotherapy. I'm a therapist for 17 years. In my more distant past, I studied computer science and biology and have a master's in science teaching. I ended up a teacher, but not in school. Well, not the usual school, at least. I live in Israel with my wife, 2 kids, and 4 cats as of yesterday. Adopting families here, for cats at least. Yeah. I teach here in Israel online and offline. I teach in Moscow and other places in the world online, and in Moscow also offline for the last 6 years. I'm a part of the Constellation Path, which is an Israeli-based international institute for the study of systemic constellations. And I'm on the staff of EFC Russia, Embodiment Facilitator Course Russia. There I teach shadow work. So bringing together shadow work in family constellation, maybe we should say a word or two about what is each one of them, because some of you, or many of you, know family constellations, I think, and some know shadow work. And so I will spare us the theory, actually. Maybe we can think about this meeting of shadow constellations as Dr. Carl Gustav Jung, MD psychiatrist, quite an esoteric, and Bert Hellinger, ex-priest, psychotherapist, and the founder of Family Constellations, having a meeting over coffee in a nice cafe in Vienna or in Zurich. A meeting which probably didn't happen because by the time Hellinger came back from Africa, Jung was probably no more with us. But still, let's suppose they sat in the coffee and said to each other, we've got so much to bring to the world. Let's discuss this for a moment. What does each one of us has to bring? And how can we influence each other to do better work? So this would be the theoretical framework of shadow constellations. I will begin with Jung. So Jung, who was a student of Freud, the big promise to be Freud's successor and also the big disappointment of Freud, would probably say that it's really important to be aware that we have an unconscious, and not just an unconscious, but a shadowy part in the unconscious, and that it directs, manages, and even controls our life. In other words, Jung would say, it's not enough to look, to see, to be aware of whatever is happening. We need to be aware that some things we cannot see. Some things we have disowned at such a young age, sometimes even in the womb, that we don't even remember that we once had them. Hellinger would probably say, it's all about acknowledging what is. If you just acknowledge it, everything will be okay. Jung would smile and say, well, it's interesting. I'm pretty sure you can't acknowledge everything. Because what's in your shadow, you just can't see. And Hellinger would probably say, well, if you're in the position of the facilitator, then you're out of the game and your blind spots would not affect the outcome. In this theoretical conversation, I would go with Jung, because we all have shadow. The shadow consists of everything that we just couldn't keep as a part of ourselves, and at the same time keep ourselves as a part of our family or of our culture. What happens as children of very small age, and again sometimes even before we're born, we have a very strong sense that a certain part of us will not be accepted, will not be loved, will not be appreciated. We learn that certain parts of ourselves are shameful to the degree that it's better to die than to have them. Because if we don't belong as very young children to a family, well, we die. So it's actually a matter of survival. And all of us, to some degree or another, had to go through a very painful process. a process of giving up internal belonging, meaning the belonging of all our self parts, of everything that we are, thoughts, emotions, abilities, ideas, even body parts sometimes. We all had to give some of that up in order, well, to be loved, basically, or to be hugged, or to be smiled at, or to be given food, because in some families, if you're not sitting on a chair, then you're not getting your food, right? And it can seem as just a disciplinary idea, but if you go to the depth of it, not giving a person food is quite a survival thing. So from a survival point of view, as very small children, we cannot do without the love of our parents or our family. It just won't work. We need at least a bit of that. And if not love, then at least care. And if not care, then at least feeding. But we need something. And for that something, we're willing to give up quite a lot. And what we give up, well, we can't really do that, can we? Have you ever tried to say, I don't know, I don't like my shoulder. I think I take it off. It's always cramped, and people tell me that my left shoulder is higher, and that's not aesthetic. Maybe I can just take it away, It doesn't work on the physical level, right? I mean, I can lose the arm and I can maybe live with that, but it will be missed. On the internal level, we can't really, I don't know, make our anger completely disappear or our helplessness. We can just decide that from now on, we will not fear, or that from now on, we will not attack anyone, or at least not have the wish to attack anyone. We can decide not to attack practically. We can not really decide to be not sexual. I mean, maybe we have a low sexual drive, that's okay, but we can't just decide to stop being sexual because we decided it's bad or because our priest said we shouldn't be having sexual sensations or wishes or anything. But we try real hard. And the result of this trying is that we internally, in our internal representation of the world and who we are, we just take parts of ourselves, push them below to the back, deep inside where we can't see or hear. Sometimes we can smell. And sometimes the things we put in the shadow, which is another way to say in a jail, try to break out. And then suddenly we act in a way which is not us. Did it ever happen to you that you did something or were told that you did something while you were maybe drunk or stoned or not? And you're like, I don't have any recollection of that. I don't remember ever doing that. It's not like me. I don't do these kind of things. Did it ever happen to you? Yeah. Or maybe you did something and you were so completely ashamed of yourself. How did I do that? How could I do that? Or how could I not avoid doing that? And this is a very human thing. It happens to everybody. But why? Maybe we just flowed. That's one explanation. I like better another one. When something is in our shadow, it means it is repressed and denied. So we're actually not in touch with it. We erect a barrier inside us, and whatever we put in the shadow is on the other side of that barrier. And to a large extent, if it's in full shadow, we really don't know it's there. Have you ever seen someone shouting, "Stop shouting"? Maybe it was you. It was definitely me. I can't stand people shouting! Or people complaining all the time about, I don't know, how people take so much space and why do people take so much space? And they're complaining on one, people take so much space, and they don't stop complaining about why people take so much space. And they take so much space. And we could go on with many examples of that. But when something is truly in our shadow, we are not aware that it's there. People on the outside can see. And usually they can't tell us. Have you ever tried to tell a partner or a good friend something that you see about them, which they didn't see about themselves, without them asking you to show, yeah? Just that you understood something about who they are, how they work internally, what is wrong with them, what they, why are they functioning in the way they're functioning. How was the experience? So good, not so good. Yeah, it's usually pretty bad because we reject the shadow. When someone tries to tell us, I don't know, you're abusive, right? How can you say that I'm abusive? I'm a therapist. I help people. My entire essence is to make people bigger and more whole. How? I don't even have words for that, you know, like you're abusive because you want to make me feel bad on something that I'm not. You're abusive. So this would be the denial that comes with the rejection of the idea. And we all do that, of course, as well. And someone actually once told me that I'm an egoist and I have interest in everything that I do. And I was like, me? I'm such an altruist. Seriously? You are telling me that? And I mean, she was like a businesswoman, but of the really completely strong, overpowering one. Every place she would go, just push people and make them do things and make them pay her more money than they should. And she's telling me, I have interest. So it's not very useful to tell people who didn't ask you. And it's very often very difficult to know for yourselves, like, where is my shadow? What don't I see about myself? What can I not even feel? Did it ever happen to you that you were watching a movie and you just had to take your stare away or hide your eyes, or that you had to go to the toilet or to drink or eat at the moment that a certain scene was happening? Something there was too much. And very often what is too much is in our shadow. This becomes interesting as therapists and facilitators and teachers. Because what happens when someone that we are supposed to be beneficial to, are supposed to be helping them, promoting them, helping them heal their wounds, we should be appreciative, we should see them in their greatness. What happens when we see in them something that we can't stand in ourselves, something that is 180 degrees opposite to who we are? What happens then? You can unmute yourself and say what happens then.
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
I didn't hear what you said because I was writing something down.
I ask what happens when you meet a client or a student who embodies in some way what you cannot stand, what is the opposite of who you are, what is not there in you at all. What happens?
The feeling of I don't want to look. It's uncomfortable.
Okay, so we move away, or we stop looking at the client or the student. That's one solution, yeah. What else can happen? You've been there on both sides, probably more than once.
Maybe you are becoming angry. I mean, the
Yeah.
client or the person who doesn't want to.
Very often we become angry, like, what do you think you're doing? What do you think, why you're like that? You should change. Yeah. Come on. There are probably 15 more things that often happens.
We probably demonstrate our magnificence in some way.
Yeah, we become patronizing and above them, and very often we become educating. It's like, okay, now I should educate this small person who doesn't know the right way, and because I am so good, I will teach them the right way, and I'm doing it for their good. It's not for me. It's not because it's not comfortable for me. It's for their own good. If they don't change the ways, they will suffer from, people less understanding than myself would probably and behave towards them in unpleasant ways. And that's the nice way of saying it. And the other way is forcefully educating them on how they should be. And we see it a lot with children. A child does something that the parent cannot stand, and automatically the parent yells or hits or forcefully takes them away and put them where they should be. Or and continue with that. Yeah. What else?
Yeah, I was thinking find a way to break up the contact, either by leaving myself or pushing the other person out of my space.
Yeah, so we have a fight or flight situation here, of course.
Yeah.
So I want the other person to disappear because I want my shadow to disappear. In the extreme cases, I want them to die, or at least to be close enough to death so that they will have the amazing revelation they should change the ways. Or sometimes we just want to hit them physically. And sometimes we want to flee, to get away. We can do it by disconnecting inside if we are socially acceptable and we don't just storm out of the room. Very often in the clinic, when we suddenly lose attention, where we suddenly think about something else, it's because we are about to touch a shadow, or we touch the shadow of either us or the client, and there is a reaction to that. There is an instant, I'm not here. I can't be with the shadow at the same space and time. So somehow I'm not here. And sometimes we just leave. Oh, I can't stand people like that. I can't stand situations like that. I'm out. If you're like that, I'm not a part of that. Yeah, what else? Come on.
I would say it's a bit like that, but the situation comes in my face and I need to challenge, and I know it's about me, and then it kind of I kind of say, well, it was not that bad once I challenge the situation.
Yeah, once we do the work and we actually meet what needs to be met, then it's different. But what is the initial reaction? You're sitting in front of a client who just told you, I don't know, he cheated on his wife. Or in front of a client who just was just angry at you and blaming you for no good reason that you don't love her enough. And for some reason, either the cheating or the blaming is completely alien to your nature. How do you react?
Hurt.
Hurt. Yeah, can be hurt.
Depends.
How do you react towards the person?
Depends depends where I'm at with the client.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because if you're at the beginning or if you're in the middle or the end,
yeah, but I'm not asking what do you do. I'm asking what happens. What is your internal reaction? What happens inside? There's a difference between what we do. Yes.
Maybe I can also feel a bit miserable, like I'm guilty, and maybe I've done something wrong. It also can follow.
Yeah, that's also an option. Maybe I did something wrong. If something is wrong, the shadow is out, something is wrong, maybe it's me. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
you can feel judgmental.
the father of sins, judgment. Yes. Usually the first thing we'll feel is some form of judgment. It can be judgment of how bad the other person is or how bad their actions are. But in general, we're no more in an empathic space. We lose the basic empathy that we should have as facilitators and therapists and teachers about our clients and students. That's the first thing that happens. And sometimes it would take really to fight reactions to the anger and educating and patronizing, and sometimes to the flight, to feeling disgusted with the person or to wanting them to go away or us to go away. Sometimes we freeze, we disconnect, or we feel helpless, we don't know what to do. And for myself, helplessness was in the shadow for many years. Both of my parents are Holocaust survivors. They don't know the word helplessness, and they couldn't survive and be helpless. So they always manage. And when I was first meeting clients, like 16 years ago, and you know, clients come to us when they are no more able to solve their issues by themselves. So they always come with some degree of helplessness. And of course, very often, especially when trauma and abuse and other things are in the area, there is more helplessness around. And I couldn't handle it. So I was trying to give them hope, to take them out of the helplessness and despair. I was trying to manipulate their bodies to move, to make the energy move again so that they will feel vital and not helpless. If that didn't help, I would think about maybe it's too big for me. Maybe I'm not experienced enough. I should probably send them to my teachers. They would know what to do with this kind of people. And that's an helpless thought. And I was also attracted, because one of the things that the shadow is responsible of is attraction. Think about it. You take away a piece of yourselves. Let's say, I don't know, anger. And you make it disappear. It's down there. What is left where the anger was before? What is there?
Pain.
Pain, maybe. Yeah.
There is a void.
There is a void. Someone has been reading. Yes, there is a void. And what do voids want to do? In nature, we don't see voids in nature, right? Yeah, they want to get filled again.
Yeah.
And they want to get filled in the highest priority by whatever was there before. So we have a situation here. I'm not in touch with my anger. There is a void where my anger was, and it wants to be filled with anger, but not mine. Can you assume something about my partners from this situation? Who would I be attracted to? Most probably to women who are in touch with their anger. Probably to women who are too much in touch with their anger, because my minus wants to be filled with their plus, with their overflow. And you can change the word anger to anything that you feel or be or sense. And you know, it's actually okay. We meet someone new, we feel attracted on a relationship, romantic relationship level. That's actually pretty cool. After a while, we suddenly think, this amazing quality that I saw in this person, it's actually the opposite. I don't like it at all. I don't want to be with this person. Like first I thought, oh, they're so smart, and now, oh, they're so rational and disconnected from their emotions. or first he was so gentle, and then he's such a wimp. So the void wants that was there. What was there before? What happens when it's in the clinic? What happens when a student of ours, we have this kind of relationship with them? What then? Did it ever happen to you? Were you ever attracted to a client? Not done anything with it necessarily, just attracted. Or thought, I wish we met some other place. Or it could have been interesting. We might have been good friends if they weren't our clients or students. Have you ever been simply sexually aroused to some degree without, again, nothing said, nothing done? While this was not the setting, okay, if you're, sexual therapy in the setting, cool. But if it's not, no, it happened. It happens to all of us at some point or another. If we work long enough with enough people, we will meet people to whom we're attracted sexually or romantically or friendship-wise. The same way that we meet people who makes us angry or who makes us disgusted or who makes us educating and patronizing. It all means just one thing. We see in them what we put in our shadow. And I think that's enough for now. Do you have any questions before we continue? No questions. I'm too clear. Okay. So the next stage in our program for today is a demonstration of a process of identifying a shadow. Is there one of you who is interested in being the subject of this process? Justine, I see you raising your hand. Okay. Just Justine is raising her hand.
Sylvia was raising her hand too.
Sylvia,
To be
Penny, and Sylvia. Okay, Justine, Sylvia, and Penny. Yes, Sonia. You too.
It's kind of scary stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. I said that if you're not scared, you're not human.
Yeah, I'm also a bit scared, but I would like to try.
Now we come to the difficult part of choosing. So what I usually do is just sense who feels to me that demonstration would be of the greatest service to the group. So I'll take a moment to do that. And I apologize in advance to all the rest of you who wouldn't be chosen today. But you can have your turn in the course if you're interested. Yeah. So it seems that I'm not sure how to pronounce your name. Liboka? Luba?
Yeah, it's quite difficult. You can just call me Luba.
Luba, okay. So I think you are the chosen one for this demonstration, but don't worry, all of you will get some personal work, so you'll not be left without anything. What I suggest we do now for demonstration so that you will see both of us on a bigger screen, that you do two things. On your screen, move the cursor to the three dots and choose the options of hide non-video participant. And then stop your video. And the combination will leave just me and Luba on your screens.
Nick, can you say that again, please? I don't know where the
Yes.
three dots are.
Move your cursor to your image in the screen
Oh yeah.
And you will see mute in the 3 dots.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere there.
And what do I do again there? Sorry.
You choose hide non-participant video, and then you take the cursor to the left and down and press the stop video.
Is that hide self-view? No.
Yeah, I thought so. Then you hide yourself.
No, it's not hide self-view.
But it's not there in the menu of participants.
No.
Maybe.
All I've
Maybe
got
you.
is all
Okay.
I've
You
got
can
is
do it,
stop
Neil.
video.
It depends on what device you are on. Sometimes you can't do it.
Yeah.
On a phone it's difficult. On a pad.
Okay. So just stop your video if that's what you can do.
But
And
you
we
can
will do.
pin. I think you can pin people.
Yeah, and you can, but you cannot pin just one person. So you're stuck with either me or Luba.
So we just then do stop video, yeah?
Yes, that's just on the video, and we'll get the most of that. Okay. So Luba. Hi. Thank you for being one of the courageous ones.
Thank you.
Okay. So what we will do now, we'll go through a process of questions. I will be asking the questions and you will be giving the answers. Now, the thing is, it's not about what you know. It's not that I'm asking you to think about the right answer in any way. I'm asking you to be in touch with your body, with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe take a moment first to feel more comfortable. You're settled?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And just bring up the answers that come. There's no right or wrong answer. We will be exploring some part of your shadowlands. Okay. If at any point it feels too much or don't want to proceed, it's okay. It's allowed. Okay.
Yeah.
Or if you need me to do something differently during the process, then it is allowed as well. Okay. Okay. So the first question is this: is there someone that really triggers you, that makes you immediately angry or judgmental or patronizing or want to educate? It can be someone in your life. It can be someone who used to be in your life. It can be a real person, but it can also be someone for a movie or a book or a politician or the politician's wife, as we say it in Israel. It could be a group of people. It could be a specific client. Please just don't choose your parents for this demonstration.
Can it be as a person who is close to me?
Sorry?
Can it be a person who is close to me, like my son or my husband?
It can be. It can be. We take in mind that in these cases they're not just making you angry, but so we would focus on the times when they are making you angry. Okay, I mean, I suppose your child that doesn't always make you angry all the time.
For sure. The answer is quite difficult, complicated to me, because normally the persons who are not close to me, they don't trigger me, and I'm not a therapist, so it's my ex-husband and it's my child and also my grandma. Yeah. Because if I am thinking about a person who is like a pop star or something like that, no.
Okay, so think about one of them who is the most triggering for you.
Okay. Then it will be my grandma.
Sorry, your grandma. I had a feeling. Okay. In 1 or 2 words only, what is so annoying about her? 1 or 2 words only. She is what?
She's telling me how to be, how to behave, how to do everything.
In 1 or 2 words. People who are telling you what to do are?
Yeah. Who to be. She's telling me who to be.
What does it make her? What is the characteristic of people like that?
I think narcissistic people who don't feel the others and manipulating and trying to change the world according to
Yeah,
their.
so you're saying a group of things now, which sounds like thoughts you already have about her in some way. So again, I refer you to your body, and I invite you to think, to imagine her in your mind's eye.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine her doing the things that you do. She does. What is the single most precise thing you can say about her? Is it narcissistic? Is it manipulative? Is it controlling? Is it abusive? Is it something else?
Manipulating.
Manipulating. Okay. So now I want to check something. How is it with other people who are manipulative? Do they make you triggered as well? Or don't you have anyone in your area who is manipulative?
They're triggering me, but not so much. Yeah, that also.
Yeah. So I would ask you to find something which actually triggers you more in other people, because with your grandma you have a relationship. So there are hurts and there are things that happened between you that are a part of the triggering. There's some intergenerational issues between you. There's many things in there.
So I need to choose what again, please?
Is there something else in that you can choose that really triggers you in other people as well? Like if someone else would be doing this to you, not your grandmother, what would you feel about him? Would you call them manipulative? Would you call them something else? Like what is so wrong about manipulative people?
What's so wrong?
Yeah. You know, everybody does manipulations. What's so wrong about being manipulative?
They don't estimate me. I mean, like they don't see me, and they're just dealing with their problems.
And people who don't see you, what are they?
What are they?
Yeah.
They're okay if they're not close to me.
Yes, but what is your judgment on them? Like,
I think they have their own problems and maybe they're not grown up enough.
that's beautiful and very understanding of you, but I'm not asking about that. Please be judgmental. Don't be politically correct. Don't try to understand.
Yeah,
Inside you, there is something about them. Sorry?
Yeah, I'm trying to be judgmental, but what's bad in them? The question.
What's so bad that you really are? I mean, what are you really judging here? You're not judging them for being undeveloped or too hurt to see you. That's not it, is it?
Yeah, but maybe I'm actually judging them to be a bit, undeveloped because I think they are not working on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe like that.
Maybe. May I check something?
Hmm?
May I try something?
Yeah, you can always try.
How do you feel about the fact they're controlling?
Oh, yeah. If they would like to control me, then yeah.
Yeah. See what happens. What just happened in your body?
I'm becoming very angry. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and all my body protests like I'm having a fire everywhere. Like, why they're telling me something, or
Yeah.
why they're trying to tell me what to
Okay.
do.
That's triggering.
Yeah, that's
Okay. Everything we did until now was going around until we hit the spot. So controlling people. Good. Let's continue. What judgment do you have about controlling people? People who control other people. Like, if you met someone like that, I don't know, you were in work and someone was like that, and then you go out and you call your best friend or someone and you tell them, you can understand this was a horrible. This woman came and she was so controlling and she's such a. What would you say? Or maybe just in your minds, this conversation. But what judgment do you have on people who are controlling?
Let me think. I'm always thinking that they're so stupid.
Uh-huh. The stupid, good.
Stupid, yeah. And I think that I need to show the truth to this person. Like,
This would be the educating reaction. Yeah.
Educating, yeah.
Yeah.
But normally in real life, I'm just being quiet. Don't say anything.
You're quiet, but what happens in your body? What does
Then
your body really wants to do? You're probably not doing it because you know we live in a civilized world. But what does your body really wants to do?
I want to speak it out loud,
Uh-huh.
but I'm not doing it. So I have something like impediment. I don't know how to say it in English in my throat.
A lump in your throat.
Lump,
yeah. And if you met them someplace where when there is no one else and no police and no one would know what happened in the jungle, what would your body want to do? I'm not saying you will do that. What's the initial reaction? The primitive reaction, what is it?
My primitive reaction will be, firstly, I will scream like, no, stop, don't do that. I'm not your stuff to control me and so on. Yeah.
What would your hands do if you let them?
Like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and maybe I will push away something like.
And that makes more sense to me. When listening to your body, I think you will push.
Yeah.
And maybe even hit. Maybe.
Yeah,
I'm not saying. Maybe.
I'm not sure.
I'm not either. I'm just listening to your body and I'm trying to see what it wants. In this situation. Okay. So controlling people. Is it possible that in some way, maybe in very specific circumstances, but is it possible that you also have a controlling part in you?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
For sure. How is it coming to the light? How is it expressed?
Normally, it's expressed when I have some problems with my child. Yeah. For sure. Yeah.
But how?
How?
Yeah.
Should I give you an example of a real situation or like just in general?
Whatever you like.
I need time, I guess.
You don't have to answer that, by the way. You know, it's a recorded session. You don't have to say anything that you
No,
don't want.
really, I'm actually curious about myself to answer. Like, okay, funny. Like, I know what's better for him and what he needs to do right in this moment, but I'm always trying to stop myself, of course. Yeah, but it happens a lot.
Yeah. So I would say that it happens a lot between parents and children. It also, you're from Russian area, from your name, and and culturally wise, it's even, there's a culture about knowing for children in Eastern Europe in general, which is even stronger than some places in the West, from my experience.
And I think when I meet people who are maybe less experienced or who have some problems, I normally tend to, initially not to ask the question, but to give the answer. Yeah, that's the other part. Yeah, I'm also trying to stop myself, but not every time it happens.
Yeah. I would guess there are other places when you are controlling and you not necessarily think yourself as controlling in them. You don't have to start thinking about them now, but for the benefit of the group, I will just mention some typical things. So sometimes we know, we are aware of a certain trait and we say, well, yeah, it's there, I don't like it about myself, and I try to stop myself like you did now, but I can't. And it's too strong. It always comes back. And sometimes it comes in the form of, no, I'm not like that, unless there is a good reason. So if it's really for the safety of the child, or if it's really, I only control when people are controlling me, then I control them back. Or maybe is it, it's only in an emergency, then it's allowed. So like situations or rules of when is it okay. Like many of us would think that being aggressive is bad. Not all, but most of us, especially therapists, think that being aggressive is not a good thing in normal day-to-day life. On the other hand, most of us would be happily aggressive if someone threatens their children. So it's like there is a rule when it's okay and when it's not okay. Or with what people is it okay? Like I never lie unless it's to my parents, because I have to protect them for the truth that I'm not what they think I am. And so to them I lie. What can I do? Or they lied first, whichever the case. So we have degrees, and sometimes it feels like I'm just not like that. I don't have it in me. In which case, I will ask the next question, which I also ask you. How would you feel if people knew that you are controlling? If people would point their finger at you and saying, you, Luba, you are a controlling person. How would that feel?
Actually, not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad.
You like the idea?
At some point, yeah. Yeah, strange, but the first feeling it's like, okay, I'm a bit proud.
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, there's a cultural aspect to the shadow, and actually to be in control in Eastern Europe is considered a very good thing. So the person who is in control is actually good. On the other hand, on the personal level, it doesn't feel so good. So I guess it depends.
For sure.
Yeah. What do you do in order not to be controlling or not to be seen as controlling?
I'm using the rule of 30 seconds.
Uh-huh.
like I'm stopping myself right at the point when I see that something is intriguing in situation for me, like I'm too excited or I'm too angry, and I'm stopping myself and just trying to feel myself for 30 seconds, and after that I'm trying to get to give a response.
Yeah, but that's the action. I ask, who do you become so that you will not think yourself as controlling, and so that people will not think of you as controlling?
Could you repeat this?
Yes. Who or what do you become in order to be the opposite of controlling?
What gets promptly in my mind, it's like I'm becoming gray.
Gray.
Yeah. And I'm becoming an element of surroundings, you know.
You blend in quietly.
Yeah. Like evaporating a bit.
Yeah. How does it feel?
I'm angry.
Yeah.
I want to protest.
Yeah. And again, I guess at some point it was safer to do that.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's safer.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So last question for this process. When you look at people who are controlling, is there something that you envy them, that you're jealous of, that you say, it's not fair that they're getting this thing in life and I don't get it?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you well. Could you repeat this?
Yes. Is there something that controlling people have or get from life that you're envious or jealous of, that it's not fair that they get it and you don't?
Like to have their own opinion and to follow it, to make their lives for themselves, their ways of lives, to live their lives.
Can you say it in less words, what all of this comes to?
Okay, we'll try.
Feel it in your body. Feel how it feels in your body, what you're thinking about. Don't look for the word, just look for the body sensation. How does it feel?
I feel like I want to move. I want to make a step, and I think the answer is they're able to make their own mistakes.
Yeah. What comes to me is they're free to make their own mistakes. Their freedom.
They're free to step.
Yeah. So take a moment to imagine, how would it feel like if you could be free to take the step without it meaning you have to be controlling?
Yeah, it's great.
How does it feel in your heart?
I feel like an energy, and the energy allows me to go somewhere, to try.
Okay. Good. Okay. Thank you, Luba.
Thank you so much. Sorry for a lot of words.
It's a part of the process. I invite you all back to the video and show yourselves. Yeah. How are you doing? Okay. Good. So again, thank you, Luba, for being brave and sharing with us every journey into the Shadowlands looks a little different. But the process I presented now is one of my favorites. I built it to make a very straight arrow going into the Darklands and to touch something meaningful. And very often I use it as the first stage of the Shadow Constellation. So we have another half an hour, and I would like you all to have an experience. So what we'll do now, of course, only if you're interested, we will go through a short session. We will not do the entire process of that we just did with Luba. I just ask you to choose one person who triggers you. That's all. Preferably a client or a student or a colleague, someone you have professional relationship with. It can be someone smaller than you, someone who is your teacher or was your teacher. It can be, and in this case, I wouldn't, it can be actually a group of students with the same characteristics if you prefer, but just someone who really triggers you in any of the ways, from disgust to attraction, from angry and abusive and educating to freezing and disconnecting, whatever. And now choose two of the items you prepared as representations. Okay, two small items. One to represent yourself, and the second to represent the other person. And position them in relation to each other intuitively. Just because this feels right. And it's okay to be a little bit obsessive about until you feel, yeah, that's right. And now take your hand, one of them, preferably the non-dominant hand, and touch your representation. And by touching your representation, you agree to step in the system of you and the other person. And you allow yourself to embody the different roles in this step, your own role in the system. And pay attention. Pay attention to your breathing, to your posture, to your heart. Does anything pulls or pushes you? Does anything moves or freezes? Pay attention to your emotions. How emotional are you? Your specific emotions rise, get low, change. Pay attention to thoughts, to the vibe of your thoughts. Maybe images or sounds or experiences come up through the body, to your consciousness. Just pay attention. Pay attention to your attention. Is it going inward, outward? Where do your eyes go? To yourself, to the other person, to the room, to the window? How are you towards the other person? How do you feel towards them in your body? And take away your hand, shake it a bit, take a breath, and touch the other person representation. Pay attention to all of the things like before. Sensations, emotion, thoughts, experiences, energies, to where your attention is going. How does it feel to be the other person? How does the other person feel towards us? How does our reaction to them feels to them? And take a breath and raise your hand and shake it. And now choose a third representation. A representation for the thing which is so triggering about them. You don't have to know the word for it. Just there is something in them which is super triggering for you, and you don't even have to think about it. It's okay if you do, of course. But just choose something to represent the part in them which triggers you. And put it as a short distance to their side. So both them and the triggering thing are in front of your representation. And now touch your representation again. Has anything changed? Specifically, where does your attention go? Are you still focused on the person? Or has some or much of your attention moved to the triggering thing? What happens when you look at the person now? How do you feel towards them? And breathe. And take off your hand and shake it. Choose a fourth representation. This representation is for that same triggering thing in you. Your version of it, your equivalent. And put it near you, right in front of the other person triggering thing. And then touch your representation. How are you now? Where does your attention go to? Turn your representation 90 degrees towards the triggering in you, the triggering thing in you, your shadow. And turn the representation of the shadow in you towards yourself. And touch your representation. And in your mind's eye, you can imagine yourself looking in the eyes of the shadow in you. How does it feel? What do you sense in your body? How is your breathing? If it feels right, you can tell your shadow, you are also a part of me. Just acknowledging it. You're also a part of me. And see how it feels. Maybe it doesn't feel right or not possible to say that. In which case you could say, it's difficult for me to say that you're also a part of me. And see how that feels. And take off your hand and shake it and breathe. And now we add another representation. A representation for one of our parents who could not stand this same thing. That this same thing triggered him or her as well. And maybe it's a grandparent if you grew up with them. And put this parental figure behind you. And touch it. How does it feel? How do they look at you? How do they look at the shadow of yourself? What would they like to tell you? Take a breath and rotate the parental figure 180 degrees. It's turning into their past. And there we had one last representation. A representation for the family history which caused this thing to be in the shadow in your family or in your culture. And while you're still touching the parental figure, looking at this family history, you can bow down your head a little bit, as in acknowledging that yes, this is our history. Yes, it was difficult. Yes, it affected us all. And also, yes, it is in the past. And also, yes, maybe something can return to its rightful place in the past. And whatever feels ready to lift off your shoulders and roll down from the parental figure to the past, to the family past, allow it. And breathe. When you feel the movement has finished, turn back the parental figure towards your representation. Is there a change in how they feel about you and about the shadow? Let them tell you one or two sentences that come intuitively to you. And if you don't have anything coming to you, you can try the following. You are my child. And I could not manage this shadow because of our family history. But now I can, but now I can better. And I can see you better. And I can be proud of you even if you have this in you. Or maybe even because you have it, you have this in you. And take off the hand and go back to your representation. Just check how you are. How do you feel now? And if before it was difficult for you to tell the shadow that it is a part of you, you can try again now. Anyway, you can try again now. And tell the representation of the shadow, you are a part of me. and see how it feels in your body. And how do you feel now towards the person with whom you started this process? What has changed between you two? And take away your hand, shake it, and touch the other person representation. How is it for them now? How is their connection with us now? Has anything changed? And the last thing we'll do is see if anything wants to move, if any of the representation feels like they should be in a different position, different distance, different direction, or the item itself feels like should be changed to a different item. And if so, do any of them. Change what wants to be changed. And when you're done, touch your representation one last time. How do you feel now? And take off your hand, shake it, release the items for the representations roles. In a moment, we will have time for you sharing whatever you feel like sharing and asking your questions. I will take a couple of minutes just to describe the course and this webinar is a preparation for. Shadow Constellation Training is a 10 weeks course for therapists and facilitators and teachers and people who work with people who would like to be more empathic, more in touch with what is difficult to be in touch with. In the course, we will be learning more in depth about the shadow and how it affects us and control different aspects of our lives and our clients' lives. We will cover the basics of family constellation for those who doesn't have background in family constellations. We will have 2 lessons about client practitioner or client facilitator relationships in view of the shadow, including transference issues and all the goody things that we find ourselves in, the more difficult and intriguing relationships with clients and students. We will learn how to work with cultural shadows, with golden shadows, which are the shadows, the good ones. Oh, I like people being so creative, I'm not creative at all. And how they affect and interfere with our business success. We will learn about the shadows of helplessness, of aggression, of vulnerability, shadows of sexuality, and shadows of death. Of course, maybe some more things will come up, and maybe something will be replaced because as a group we will need something else. Each lesson is divided into 2 parts. The first part is a theory and personal practice, questions and supervision, and the second part is a group session or working in couples or small groups. We'll begin next Monday, online like today, 3.5 hours every time, from 10 to 1:30 Israel time, and you can calculate yours. After finishing the course, you receive a certificate from the Constellation Path, and you can continue studying there in the school, another 3 modules to complete your facilitation diploma. Yeah, I think that's the course. I love it. I hope you will too. Do you have any questions, anything to share about the process or about the course? The floor is yours. You can unmute and talk away.
Well, I love this very, very much. I've worked with stuff like that before, but not in that way. And it was amazing and very touching and moving, and so many shadows come up. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm thrilled. Thank you so much, Nia. That was impressive and wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I was very angry against the person, but when the thing inside of her, it becomes I was envious, jealous about this, because I couldn't shine this, and yes, because of the story of the family. It's just if people can see you, it's dangerous for you. You have to stay modest.
Yeah.
And because the person, it was like, oh, she's always like this. No, I can't, but I want, she said. So yeah, and I can accept this now. It's okay. I can see why I couldn't accept.
Yeah.
But,
and maybe it will open for you a way to shine some more if you continue this work on this specific path. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hiya.
Yeah. Hi.
Grania in Cork. Yeah, I found that really powerful actually, and quite clearing. I did, the little process that we did, it was just a very short. I've done a little bit of family constellation. I'm more of a tutor, facilitator, community worker, and I've done a little bit of family constellation with a teacher who I really respect. So yeah, very powerful. I suppose I have one question.
Yes.
This is actually, I'm in work, so I kind of snuck away from a meeting. Is it possible to, because this was 11 o'clock your time, which is 9 a.m. my time, so it's going to be 10 a.m. your time, which will be
8 your time.
8, yes. And it's 3-hour sessions. Like, I mean, of course it would be a lot better to be there in person, but is there recorded, is that an option for this course, or do you need to be there?
The first part will be recorded for people who can be there occasionally. This course is not about the information. In general, I think
it's interactive.
There is so little theory involved, to be honest. It's so much more about how we continually go there and touch things from different aspects and explore. And also there is the group interaction.
Yeah, of course.
I'm sorry, not this time.
No. I mean, I thought as much. I just thought I'd put it out there. But thank you. Yeah, I found it very powerful. I've done maybe 4 or 5 constellations myself just as a participant. But really powerful because I do a lot of body work as well. So it's like, woo, and bring that in. So thank you. Very, very enjoyable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And actually, I need
thank
to
you very much. Yeah, it was. Sorry. Yeah, thank you so much. And I have a question because in this shadow work, I'm always asking myself, what should I do when a person doesn't admit this part in himself? When you ask, like, do you have this part? Like, how do you behave like this? And I can imagine that in many situations, the person says, well, I'm not at all like that. So I'm
That's very easy. So you ask them, okay, I'm glad to know that you're not like that. So let me ask you a question. How would you feel if people thought that about you? If this is what people knew about you? Now, if a person is really not like that, they would say, what do I care? I'm not like that. But since usually we are like that, they're like, oh no, that's horrible. Okay, it's like if you told me, you know, Nir, I think you're stupid. Yeah, to be honest, I think you're stupid. I'm like, okay, you're entitled to your own opinion. I know I'm smart, you know. I don't have issues there. I have enough I have enough credentials there. But if you told me, you know, Nir, I really think that that you're really blinded to some really important things, I would be, well, I have to intellectually admit it's possible, but I'm not comfortable so much with being so blind to so many big things. So I have a reaction to something. Okay, when something really isn't in you, it's not an issue if people think that about you. Okay, you can think. So that's one way to approach that. Another way to say, okay, respect that, let's do other things. And after half a year, a person sometimes is ready again to touch the thing. I remember once I had a group like this only in person, and the shadow that came up was helplessness. And we reached that point in the questioning, and it was like, yeah, that's very interesting, but I don't feel it's right. So, okay, so let's choose someone else who triggers you, and let's see. And it did, and we did the entire process again, and again it went to being helpless. And he said, wow, that's really interesting, but no, I'm not helpless. I said, okay, so choose a third person who triggers you. And again, it was helplessness who triggered in a third person. And we walked with this, and it was like, I don't know if it's, and we did the work, and I don't know. And he called me after a couple of days saying, Anir, I don't know what's wrong. My entire body is aching. All of my muscles are contracting. Like, okay, maybe it did touch you. After half a year, began learning shadow and family constellations. So, sometimes it takes time for people. I never push people, okay? And not because pushing is not allowed. It's just not useful in most cases, and not respectful of the other person's position. So if a person is not willing to look there, and you did your best to show it in a respectful way, okay, it's not ready. That's fair. I mean, all of us has things we cannot yet touch. Believe me, all of us. Okay, so the pace in which we walk the path is also very meaningful. And if it's your partner, it's very difficult. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Any questions about the course, about the content? I forgot to say it's 700 euros and it can be paid in parts. Yeah, questions, sharing, anything, requests?
Yeah, Neil, sorry. Hi.
Yes, hi Lara.
Very
Yes.
nice exercise. You mentioned something, I'm not familiar with the school, so this could be like a third of the whole becoming a facilitator.
Yeah, the training program of the school consists of 4 modules, 4 training modules. One of them is basic training. You don't have to start there, but you have to do it at some point. And 3 focused modules. Shadow Constellation is one of them. Other teachers offer different models. The one who offer it internationally online are Ravit Levin from Thailand, who teaches about constellation sexuality, I think, or constellation gender stuff. Maybe Justine can tell me exactly because she's there in the same place. And we have Merav Schreiber, which mostly teach about parenting and constellation. And we have Ishai Gaster, which is the founder of the school, who teach different kinds. It depends. He has a lot of options.
Right. And the whole formation can be online? I mean,
yes, it can be.
It seems so.
It can be online. It can be online. There's sometimes also like more focused courses. But each teacher teaches in the way that feels right for them. Like not all teachers feel comfortable in English. Not all teachers feel comfortable online. But at least enough are to complete the training. That's for sure.
To complete the training. Oh, okay. That's what I want to know. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And yeah, if you can touch a little about the program of the Shadow Constellations. You
It's what I
mentioned
said
that.
before. It's a
Yeah.
10 lessons that we
10
go
lessons.
through different aspects of the shadow and learn how to integrate with our shadows, how to work well with clients, and leading them to accept and integrate with their shadows. It usually involves lots of intergenerational trauma because the shadow is born in the trauma of the past generations most often. So there's quite a bit of trauma education on the way, but again, it depends on every group and what comes up.
Okay, and then again, just to check it online, the school is the path. What's the name of the school?
The constellation path. I don't think the international website is not ready yet, so you probably
Okay.
get Ishai Gaster's personal website with some info about the school. We're working on that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And do you have plans to repeat the course?
Yes, of course. It's the major course that I teach. I don't know exactly when and how, and there are some variations. For example, a course that focuses only on clinical work, not on group work, and which is one of the options. But probably in a few months I will do it again. Yeah.
Okay. And the information I can see on your website, right?
Yes, yes. In general, if you want to be notified on the stuff I do, you can go back to the website where you registered, and down at the bottom of every page there is join the mailing list. I don't mail a lot. Usually once a month is a lot for me in most cases. So you're welcome there.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Anything you want to share, to say before we finish? Yes, Sylvia.
Sorry, you said there is an option to pay in installments.
Yeah.
What does that look like, or would you like to discuss that one-to-one?
In general, you just pay once a month. Usually, like the first payment, then another 3, and if there is need, we can do it in more. This would be a one-on-one. If there is need for greater and more parts.
Great,
that's
thank
possible.
you.
Yeah. Okay. So, if there are no more questions or anything more to share, then I thank you for being here today. And I invite you to keep in touch, both through the mailing list, and if you want to write something to me in person, please feel free. My email is near@nearesterman.com. So it's near at my website address. And you can also easily find me on Facebook, Near Esterman. So for any questions or sharing, or if there's anything you would like to discuss in person and privately, feel free to do that. If you have colleagues you feel would benefit from this training, then please feel free to let them know about it and share the webpage with them. And I hope to see you in this course or another. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we work on one single emotion in a session? No, not necessarily. Usually, very often, many things happen in a single session in constellation work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My
It was
pleasure.
thank you. Bye.
Thank you,
so
Ruga.
much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.